Inside the village where women desire men, you'll be shocked by what you see. Hello and welcome to the Discovery Fact Channel. Dear viewers, our world has hundreds of thousands of villages of all sizes. Some places are famous for their beautiful scenery, others for their delicious food, and some for their long and rich history. But there are also villages that make people pause for a few seconds when they first hear about them because their strangeness goes far beyond what most people could imagine. Just think about it. There is a village where no house has doors and people leave their money out in the open without anyone even thinking about taking it. Does that sound unbelievable? Or imagine another place where the entire village is made up of women and any man who enters is immediately asked to leave. And that's not all. Around the world, there are also villages where almost everyone knows martial arts like masters from classic sword fighting movies. There are even places where the residents had to create their own second sun just to get sunlight during the winter. Pretty unbelievable, right? Some of you might even be thinking that stories like these only exist in movies. But no, every one of them is real. Across this planet, there are small communities with stories so unusual that scientists, journalists, and travelers from around the world are curious enough to come and see them for themselves. Some villages hold mysteries that no one has been able to explain. Others maintain unique traditions that leave outsiders completely astonished. What makes these places truly special is not only their uniqueness, but also the way the people who live there adapt and turn what might seem unusual to others into a perfectly normal part of their everyday lives. So, are you curious to find out which strange villages actually exist in the world? If you are, then come along and explore them with me right now. The village where only women live. No men are allowed to enter. Imagine a village where you can walk from one end of the road to the other and not see a single man. Not the kind of situation where the men are away for work for a few days, but the kind where there are simply no men living there at all. It sounds like something out of a movie, right? But no, there really is a place like that in the real world. This unusual village is called Umoja, located in northern Kenya. From a distance, it looks similar to many other tribal settlements in Africa, with a few small mud huts, dry fields, simple fences made of branches, and red earth stretching out under the hot sun. But the moment you step inside, you quickly notice something very unusual. Only women live here. You won't see men walking along the paths, you won't find men inside the homes, and in fact, men are not allowed to live in the village. If a man visits, it must be with permission and usually only for a short time. The village was founded in 1990 when a group of women from the Samburu tribe decided to create a safe refuge for themselves. So why did they feel the need to build a village of their own in the first place? The answer lies in the reality many women faced in their traditional community at the time. Many were dealing with domestic violence, abuse, or forced marriages at a very young age. With nowhere else to go, they came together and built Umoja, a village created specifically for women. The name Umoja means unity in Swahili. And true to its name, the village was built on the idea of women supporting and protecting one another. At first, only a few women lived there in temporary huts. But over time, news about the village spread. Women facing similar hardships from nearby regions began arriving, hoping to start their lives over again. Gradually, Umoja grew into a real community, a place with children, daily life, work, and new dreams. Here, women do everything themselves. They build homes, raise livestock, take care of their children, and create traditional handmade crafts such as necklaces and bracelets, which they sell to tourists to earn income. In simple terms, the women in this village are the builders, the farmers, the protectors, and the leaders. Many people who hear about Umoja imagine the atmosphere there must be tense, but in reality, it's quite the opposite. Life in the village is lively and close-knit. Children run and play around the mud huts while women sit together making crafts, chatting, and helping one another with daily tasks. Most importantly, they feel safe, because that was exactly the purpose of creating this place. A space where women and girls can live without fear of violence or forced relationships. Of course, this doesn't mean they hate men. But the rule that men cannot live in the village helps maintain a sense of safety for people who have experienced deep trauma in the past. From the outside, Umoja may look like just another small village in a dry landscape. But for the people who live there, it represents a new beginning, a place where they can make their own choices about their lives. Pretty interesting, right? Though it does make you wonder, is there a village somewhere that's only for men? If there is, maybe I should move there, because hearing this story almost makes me feel a little left out. The village with no doors. Even when money is left out, no one dares to take it. Let me ask you something honestly. If you had to live in a place where your house had no doors, where you went to sleep at night without locking anything, and where money and jewelry were simply kept in an unlocked box, would you dare to live there? Probably not, right? It sounds far too dangerous. But somewhere in the world, there is a village where this is completely normal, and it has actually been a tradition for hundreds of years. The unusual village I'm talking about is located in India and is called Shani Shingnapur. This village is famous around the world not for its beautiful scenery or special local dishes, but for something that sounds almost unbelievable. Nearly the entire village has no doors. That's right, not just one or two houses. About 300 buildings in the village, from family homes to schools and even banks, do not have doors installed. They only have door frames, but the actual doors are simply not there. By this point, many people probably imagine thieves running wild, right? I get that because that was my first thought too. But after looking into it more closely, it turns out that theft almost never happens here. In Shani Shingnapur, money, jewelry, and other valuable items are often kept in ordinary boxes, and those boxes are usually not locked either. To put it humorously, if a thief ever showed up here, they might not even know what to take first, because everything is left out in the open. In fact, the no-door tradition is taken so seriously that many public restrooms in the village's shared community areas originally had no doors either. However, for privacy reasons and at the request of women in the village, some of these places have recently added thin curtains. But remember, it's only a curtain. There are still no actual doors. According to the villagers, installing doors would go against their traditional beliefs. One local resident, Parmeshwar Maini, who owns a small grocery shop in the village, once explained that people here simply don't feel the need for locks or complicated security systems. They believe that an invisible force is protecting the entire village. That force is their faith in the god Shani. According to local beliefs, the god Shani constantly watches over the village and punishes anyone who intends to steal or do something wrong there. Because of this belief, people feel that anyone who dares to steal will face serious consequences. This strong faith has helped create a community where people live very honestly with one another. No one even thinks about stealing because they believe the god is always watching. Of course, life is not always perfect. Living without doors can also lead to some funny situations. For example, when someone comes to visit. In most places, visitors knock on the door or ring a doorbell. But in Shani Shingnapur, the problem is there's no door to knock on. So what do people do? The solution is very simple. They just stand in front of the house and call out loudly. Something like, "Hey, is anyone home?" Or, "Hello, I came by to visit." It sounds a bit like people calling out to each other across farmland in rural areas, doesn't it? But here, that's considered the most polite way to announce a visit. Sometimes families place a wooden board across the doorway at night. But the purpose isn't to stop thieves, they only do it to keep stray dogs or wandering animals from walking into the house. And that just goes to show that some places in the world live in very different ways. While people in many big cities lock their doors with multiple locks and still worry about safety, in this village, residents can sleep peacefully even though their homes don't have doors at all. Honestly, it sounds like quite a nice place to live. The village of beautiful women in Brazil, where 80 attractive women live together and many are still single. Did you know that in a lush green valley in Brazil, there is a small village that makes almost everyone curious the moment they hear about it? Not because the place hides some treasure and not because the scenery looks unrealistically beautiful, but because something rather unbelievable happens there. The village is made up almost entirely of women, and not just ordinary women, but very beautiful ones. The village is called Noiva do Cordeiro, tucked away in a peaceful valley in Belo Vale, Brazil. Surrounding it are fields of tangerines and bananas, along with bright yellow flowers scattered across the hillsides. From a distance, the place looks like a peaceful countryside painting where anyone would want to spend a few relaxing days to clear their mind. It's so calm and picturesque that it almost feels like a movie setting. But to be honest, tourists don't come here just to admire the scenery. What really makes people widen their eyes in surprise is the village's residents. If you walk from one end of the village to the other and look around, you'll mostly see women everywhere. And what makes it even more surprising is that many of them are very beautiful. They have that healthy rural beauty, sun-kissed skin, bright smiles, and an energetic presence that you notice immediately. It's not the delicate, sheltered type of beauty you might imagine, but a strong and lively kind. Hearing this, some of you might already be thinking, is this paradise? Well, hold on a moment, because the story behind this village is even more interesting. The story goes back to the late 19th century. The village was originally formed by a woman named Maria Senorina de Lima. She moved there in 1891 after being accused of adultery and expelled from both the church and the community where she had lived. It sounds a bit sad, doesn't it? But from what seemed like a tragic story, a strong community of women eventually emerged. As time passed, other women also came to live there, and gradually the village became a place where women played the main role in almost every activity, from farming and raising animals to managing daily life. Today, about 80 women in the village work in agriculture. They plant crops, raise cows and chickens, and take care of their gardens. In short, they handle just about everything themselves. One of the notable women in the village is Marcia Fernandez, who is 33 years old. During the day, she works on the farm, and in her free time, she sings traditional folk music like a part-time singer. Even so, life here is far from boring. According to Marcia, the best part of living in the village is that everyone works together and shares every moment of life. No matter how hard the work may be, they still feel happy because they always have friends by their side. In simple terms, you could say it's like a close-knit sisterhood, almost like a countryside version of a supportive women's club in rural Brazil. But many people still wonder, so where are all the men? In reality, there are still some men in the village, but very few. Most of them work far away, often as miners or in the nearest large city, Belo Horizonte. They usually return to the village only on weekends. As a result, throughout most of the week, the village is almost entirely run by women. Interestingly, many of the younger women there are still single. Like anyone else, they hope to find love someday. When a British visitor named Harry Wallop came to visit the village, he was extremely surprised by what he saw. Not because of the lack of men, but because of the strong sense of unity and optimism among the women living there. Many residents admit that their community is quite unusual compared to typical rural areas in Brazil, but that difference is exactly what makes the village special. Here, women are not only beautiful, they are also independent, hardworking, and deeply connected to one another. Just imagine a place where people go out to the fields together in the morning, come home to cook lunch, gather in the afternoon to chat, and sometimes spend the evening singing traditional folk songs. The lifestyle may sound simple, but I bet it's the kind of life that many people living in big cities secretly envy and dream about. After all, if they didn't dream about it, why would so many people talk about leaving the city for the countryside, or spend weekends searching for peaceful places just to relax and recharge? The village where everyone knows Kung Fu. Imagine one day you wander into a small mountain village. You're walking around casually when suddenly you see an elderly man leaning on a cane spin it gracefully like something straight out of a martial arts movie. A few steps later, you spot a young boy practicing punches and delivering a kick that cuts through the air with a sharp whoosh. Well, congratulations! You've probably wandered into a village where almost everyone knows martial arts, from the elderly to young adults and even children. That village is called Gangxi Dong, a small autonomous village hidden deep in the Tianzhu mountain region of China. The village is quite isolated, surrounded by layers of mountains and forests. Getting there isn't as easy as driving down a straight highway. Instead, you have to travel along winding roads that twist and turn through the mountains. Because of this remote location, the people there have managed to preserve many ancient traditions, especially the martial art of Kung Fu. In Gangxi Dong, martial arts are not just something people practice for fun. They are a part of everyday life. The villagers belong to one of the 56 officially recognized ethnic minority groups in China, and they take great pride in their martial arts heritage. Almost everyone in the village knows Kung Fu, although each person may specialize in a different style. Some focus on hand-to-hand combat techniques, others train with long staffs, and some master traditional weapons such as spears or tridents. There are even people who rely on nothing but their bare hands and can still make an opponent think twice. So if someone came into the village looking for trouble, chances are the entire village could give them a free martial arts lesson. At this point, you might wonder why the whole village is so skilled in martial arts. From what I've learned, the local people share two main stories that explain this unique tradition. The first theory sounds a bit like an adventure movie. Long ago, the surrounding mountains were filled with wild animals. Tigers, leopards, and wolves often attacked livestock and sometimes even threatened humans. To protect themselves and their animals, each family in the village would choose a strong young man to learn martial arts. These young trainees began observing how animals moved in the wild. They studied the movements of dragons, snakes, tigers, and leopards, and then transformed those movements into their own fighting techniques. After mastering the skills, they returned home and taught their families. Over time, each family developed its own distinct Kung Fu style. One family might become known for powerful tiger-style techniques, while another became skilled in the flexible movements of snake-style combat. Generation after generation, martial arts gradually became something that seemed to run through the village's blood. The second theory is a bit more practical. When the first settlers arrived in Gangxi-dong, they were frequently attacked and robbed by groups from nearby villages. With no other choice, the villagers invited martial arts masters to teach them how to defend themselves. At first, only a few people trained in martial arts to protect the village. But as time passed, martial arts became an important skill, so almost every family began encouraging their children to train. Over many generations, this practice turned into a lasting tradition. No one knows for sure which story is the most accurate. What we do know is that today, even though life has become much more modern, the villagers continue practicing Kung Fu as an important part of their cultural identity. In the morning, you might see elderly residents practicing forms in the courtyard. In the afternoon, children practice kicking drills on open patches of land. Meanwhile, young adults train with long staffs or spears. Honestly, if this village ever hosted a martial arts tournament, they probably wouldn't even need to invite fighters from outside. The villagers competing against each other would already make the event exciting enough. Dear viewers, and with that, the mysteries of the villages we explored have brought our journey today to an end. Which village impressed you the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to give Discovery Fact a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any other fascinating discoveries. For now, goodbye and see you in the next video.